Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of E-Heroes. For those keeping count, this is episode 289. We are getting so close to that 300 episode that took us almost 6 years to get to. Now, I know a lot of you are frustrated with social media, especially running ads on Facebook and Instagram. So I brought on an expert, and you guys know I have this love-hate relationship with Facebook, with Zuckerberg, also with LinkedIn, but those are the social networks that I'm prevalent on. My audience is on Facebook and the people that I want to capture are on LinkedIn, but they annoy me so much. So you got to take the good with the bad. So I want to introduce everyone to Adrian Richardson, and I want to thank you for being here because I think we're going to learn a lot.
Yeah, I'm excited. I love coming on and talking to people that have a love-hate relationship with Facebook because I feel like a lot of people do. And so I'm excited to jump in and see where it goes.
I just looked the other day and I was trying to figure out how long I've been on some of these social networks. And Facebook, I've been on since 2008. And
Wow.
I think right after 2008, it was probably 6 months later, I got booted for I don't know, a period of time. Then they let me back on. And this was when Facebook was kind of wild, wild west.
Yeah, I was
You
gonna say
could
it's pretty
post
hard to get booted
anything.
off
So
then.
it's like, who did I trigger? Although I do trigger a lot of people nowadays because they end up in my books, I haven't gotten booted for a while. And I try not to anymore because now that I have all these clients that need my services to post, when I get a 24-hour suspension or 48-hour suspension, none of my clients can post it either.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, that's a problem.
so I'm trying to be low key and still trigger people, but doesn't always work. But
Delicate balance.
yeah, the I think running ads is can be very efficient and profitable for people on Facebook if done right.
Yeah.
I don't think boosting is the right way. Um, I've noticed a lot of people boost their posts, but then they don't monitor their Facebook. So you get a lot of negative comments, spam, people that don't even match your demographic and they're just voicing their concern. Or I just think ads are better.
Yeah.
But then you still get comments on those too.
Yeah, you're going to get comments whether, when you boost a post, that is actually a type of ad. So a lot of people don't think that they're running an ad. They're like, oh, I'm just boosting a post, but it is a type of ad and it's an ad that's optimized for engagement. So it's optimized for likes, comments, or shares. And so a mistake that some people make with boosting the ad is that they're like, well, I'm not getting any sales from it. Well, you're probably not likely to get sales from it because it's not being optimized for sales. It's being optimized for engagement. And so really the only time that I ever boost a post is when I've posted something to my business page and I really want more of my followers to see it, because we know that when we post to our business page, Facebook really only pushes that out to about 2% of your audience. So if I have something that I wrote that's really good and I do want people to engage with it, then I might boost it just to my followers.
Mhm.
But that's pretty much the only time that I'll use the boost post option.
Now I see these ads all the time, 5 hours a day for Facebook ads. And I don't know if that's very realistic or reliable, or I just feel like it gets people's excitement, up. Oh wow, I can save a lot of money, just do these 5 hour posts. But in reality, I think it requires a lot more than that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the cost of ads has gone up just like the cost of everything else in our world has gone up. Facebook hasn't been, exempt from that. And as costs go up, then you have to spend more money to get results. Now, you can't really get anything with $5 a day these days unless you're targeting, India or the Philippines or something like
Right.
that. But if you're targeting the United States, you really need probably a minimum of $25 a day. $50 a day would be better.
Mhm.
So it's still accessible for most small business owners, but $5 a day is pretty unrealistic to see any kind of good results.
Yeah, I know, we do a lot of Google ads,
Hmm.
and the costs have gone up a lot. I mean, more than 50%, I believe,
Yeah.
since COVID. and
Hmm.
and the competition. We used to be able to get our clients, really cheap cost per click. But then
Yeah.
the competition came in and they're driving those costs up and they're outbidding in these auctions. And I would suspect that Facebook is very similar.
Yeah, exactly. Facebook is an auction. And so the person who's willing to pay the most wins. Facebook can only serve so many ads in a person's news feed within a 24-hour period. And so the person who has the bigger budget that can afford to spend more is going to get more reach and impressions than someone with a smaller budget, because that's exactly how it works in an auction. The
Hmm.
person who's willing to pay the most wins.
Yeah.
And so it's very similar with Facebook.
So what do you what do you suggest to new clients? And I always try to lower their expectations because they're always thinking that they're gonna win big with Facebook.
Well, what I always start out with people is asking, like, what is the outcome here that we're trying to achieve, right? I work the numbers backwards. So let's say someone comes to me and they have a webinar funnel, they're selling a high ticket coaching offer. Then, I'm going to always start out with, well, how many sales, how many new clients would you like to get per month?
Hmm.
Right? And then we back out the numbers from there. Well, to get that many sales, how many people do you need to talk to? Okay, well, then to get that many calls booked, how many registrations to your webinar do we need to get? And then, back it up. And then that's where I can tell them, well, this is roughly the budget that you're going to need in order to achieve that goal.
Hmm.
And for sometimes people, they're like, okay, cool, then that's
Hmm.
what I'll spend. Others, they don't have that budget. And so then
Right.
we need to adjust the expectation, right? So I try to do my best to give people as realistic numbers as possible. The last thing I ever want to do is like tell somebody they're going to get like great and amazing results and it's going to be super cheap. And then all that does is create disappointment from them. And then it makes me look bad.
Yeah.
So I think that it's really important to set realistic expectations for people. And most people, they just pull a number out of the air, and they're just like, oh, I want to get I want to make $10,000, or I want to make this much, or whatever, and they don't even realize that it's not even mathematically possible to
Right.
achieve that with the budget that they have. So I always start with the end goal in mind and work the numbers backwards, and then set the budget based on that and make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Yeah. And I think one of the big concerns that I've had with clients is they expect very quickly, the phone to ring. So
Yeah.
as soon as you run that ad, they're, oh, I'm going to get all these tons of phone calls. It doesn't work that way.
No, no. And the algorithm for Facebook is set up, they have what's called a learning phase. And the learning phase is 7 days long. And what that means is when you tell Facebook, here's who I want to show my ads to, they start serving the ad out to those people. And then as people start responding and converting, the algorithm gets smarter and smarter and starts serving it to more people like those people.
Hmm.
And it takes it about 7 days to even just figure that part of it out. And so back in the day when I first started ads 10 years ago, it only took like 24 hours for the learning period. And you knew pretty quickly if something was going to work or not. But that time has been extended now. And
Hmm.
so I find that most people give up too quickly. They want to tinker and change things constantly all the time. And I'm like, every time you mess with something, you're just extending the learning phase. It's something that requires patience, and it absolutely can, work really, really well, but it takes a little bit of testing and it takes a little bit of time to get it dialed in.
Hmm. So how did you get started in this? You said you're going back 10 years. I mean,
Oh,
when I started on Facebook, running ads on Facebook was the least of the things that I wanted to do.
yeah. So my background is in PR and advertising. I have a degree in public relations, and I used to work at an advertising agency in Philadelphia when I got out of college. And from there, when I was having my first child, I got laid off, and I had an idea to start a parenting magazine. So my first business I ever started was a print magazine called South Jersey Mom. It's still in print today,
Wow.
but I sold it in 2011. And so I did very traditional print advertising, selling print ads, things like that. And right around the time that I sold the magazine was when Facebook was kind of coming on the scene, not in terms of ads, but in terms of like people actually starting to be like, hey, are you on Facebook? What's
Mhm.
this Facebook thing? And so in 2013, I opened up my own PR firm. And a couple months in, I ran across this pink haired lady named Sandy Krakowski that was talking about Facebook
Hmm.
ads.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
yeah, I had never heard of Facebook ads. And so I just started paying attention to what she was saying. And initially, I started learning them to use for myself to get myself more PR clients.
Hmm.
And I quickly realized that with my background in marketing and advertising and this new tool, I was getting incredible results. And so I started offering it to my PR clients. And within the first year, I shut down everything that I was doing with PR and I went all in on Facebook ads. And that was over 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very close. I'm in Lancaster County in Pennsylvania,
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
so not too far away. And I started out. I had a carpet cleaning business that I started in '95 and sold it in 2014. But I started this consulting company in 2001, and it really didn't start growing until the first book came out, which was
Mm.
2013. And that book was all about social media, but it wasn't, we didn't focus on ads. So it was just,
Yeah.
this is how you post, this is what you do. I kept it simple.
Mm-hmm.
And that book basically launched, yeah, we were in the consulting company, but we weren't really known until that book took off. So,
Yeah.
yeah, print magazines, books, very similar, but, magazines are still big. And granted, newspaper companies are going out of business very quickly because they can't compete. But old school books, magazines, the people still love them.
Yeah. Well, and at that time, I mean, I started the magazine in 2007.
Hmm.
And so people were still reading magazines at that time. Like I said, social media was still very new to people.
Yeah.
And especially because we were a local magazine that was for parents. You know, moms tend to consume all kinds of content when it comes to parenting. And at that time, they still very traditionally read magazines. So
Mhm.
it did very well for us.
Do you service all kinds of industries, or you focus on just a few
For Facebook,
for Facebook? Yeah.
our specialty is in for online business owners that are coaches, consultants, authors, speakers, that kind of a thing. I've dabbled in e-commerce a little bit, but I haven't really ever done like brick and mortar local business ads. So it's mainly the online businesses that are in the coaching and consulting
Yeah.
space.
My big clients are lawyers and doctors, and we initially we tinkered with Facebook, but we just thought that most of these lawyers and doctors, Facebook is not geared to getting them the clients that they really want.
Yeah.
We focused on Google because that's where the majority of those people that when they need a
Hmm.
personal injury lawyer, they go to Google first.
Yeah, they're going there and searching for a lawyer. Yeah.
Hmm. But
Yeah.
like I said, Google's fees right now are just and when we started running these ads, we could get under $1 for
Yeah.
click.
Haven't seen that
Now
in a
now
long
it's
time.
like 12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
And depending on the keyword, some of these lawyers are spending 100 hours a keyword. And I was like,
Yeah.
crazy. But they
Yeah.
know the return on investment is they get one
Yeah.
case, $1 million case. It pays for their marketing for the whole year too.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, I don't look at it as in terms of what does it cost. I look at it as what is the return, right? It
Mhm.
doesn't really matter how expensive it is as long as you're making more money than you're spending. That's really all that matters. And so,
Yeah.
yes, the cost has gone up. And for some people who might have a lower ticket offer, it might not make sense financially. But as long as you're making more than you're spending, that to me, that's a huge win and it's worth it.
So what do you see the changes in Facebook? I know that they got rid of the tracking on the iPhones and stuff like that, but can people dynamically actually win, at Facebook ads?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I have an agency full of clients that are winning with it, and I have a coaching program where I help small business owners as well. And even though the tracking changed, what there's two ways around it. Is number one, we use UTM's, and so we can still track everything that we want to track, and even actually better than Facebook can track it. And second of all, even if someone on their iPhone opts out of tracking, the
Mhm.
very first action that they take is still trackable. So even if someone says, no, you can't track me. Like,
Right.
let's say that it was like a webinar funnel where someone opts in to watch the webinar, and then the next action would be to like go to a page and buy, or go to a calendar and book a call. That second action can't be tracked if they've opted out of tracking, but the first one can be.
Mm,
So it's still, it hasn't hurt ads as much as people thought it would.
right.
It's made it a little bit harder to get clear data if you're just using Facebook. But if you add in UTMs or some kind of third party tracking source, it's really a non-issue. So it's very easy to track how the ads are doing, where the sales are coming from, and then be able to determine if you're making a return or not.
What do you see some of the mistakes that people are making when they run their ads?
Um, I'd say there's two that stand out the most, and that is targeting. It's who they show their ads to, and you could put 20 people in a room right now that do Facebook ads, and everybody would give you a different answer. And that's why it's so hard to know what's right, what's going to work, because there's so many different opinions, and there isn't just one way to do things.
Hmm.
But when it comes to who you're going to show your ads to, if you don't put your ads in front of the right people in the first place, none of it's going to work, and it's going to be
Right.
very, very expensive. The better job you do at telling Facebook who you want your ads to be put in front of will lower your cost. So that's number one. And then number two is the messaging. When I first started running ads, you didn't have to be a very good copywriter. You could kind of have some meh copywriting and you could still crush it. But these days, with how much people are bombarded by information, with how distracted they are, like, you have to have a really strong, specific, compelling message in
Hmm.
order to really get people to stop scrolling, click on your ad, and follow through. And I think that people don't put enough thought and effort into writing their ads.
Hmm.
They just jump on there, click some buttons, and throw it up, and like, I'll just see what happens. And then they don't get good results. And then they think Facebook ads don't work. And so the targeting and the messaging is really, really important in terms of, if you don't get those right, you won't bring the right people into the funnel in the first place, which will make it really hard to convert them into buyers.
Yeah, I posted earlier today that I got hit with an ad from another SEO agency. That's what we do. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, why am I being targeted? But then when I went to the guy's website, his own website's not optimized. He didn't have blog articles. It looked like it was, 6 years old and,
Yeah.
you know, lousy content. And I'm thinking, why are you running this ad? Why are you wasting this money?
Yeah. Well, the thing is with ads, typically you're not running them to a website. You're running them to a landing page to opt in for something. So technically, most people will never even see his website because they'll just opt in for whatever he's running traffic to. Unless he was running traffic to his site, then that's a whole different story. But sometimes you can still have really great results even if you have a crappy website because you have a really strong, compelling landing page.
Yeah, and I think that's really what they were probably looking to do, but I'm thinking he skipped a step because it
Yeah.
went right to his website, and I'm thinking,
Yeah, if it went right to his website and it wasn't a great site, then yeah, he probably should work on his site before he runs some ads.
but let's talk about funnels because for me it was you're always one funnel away from a nervous breakdown, and because everybody's Frankensteining their systems together,
Mhm.
and then one thing breaks and they have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's keep your funnels simple.
yeah. I mean, I think that people tend to overcomplicate things. I always say, like, a confused mind does nothing, right? And so the key is you want to make things as simple as possible, as clear as possible. Don't give people a ton of different options or confuse them. And just make it be the easiest, clearest path to the outcome that you're trying to achieve.
Hmm. I did see something on your website that really impresses me,
Hmm.
and I guess one of your programs starts at $5,000 a month plus
Mm-hmm.
10% ad spend.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been toying with that for a while. And I have some takers. They don't mind spending that kind of money.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's ones that they'll spend it, but within 1 month they're ready to bail because they're not getting the results.
Yeah.
So how'd you come up with that program?
So that's my ad management that we do with our agency where we manage ads for the clients. And typically, what I will tell people when they come to me and want to talk to me about ad management is, like you said, setting up proper expectations. And so I'll tell people, like, if you're not willing to give this a 90-day try, then it's not really worth your time or my time to go at this. If you need to make all of your money back within 30 days, or like you're going to be broke or out of business, then this isn't a good fit for you.
Right.
So I'm really selective about who I work with. And I also won't take on a client that doesn't have the ability to turn leads into buyers.
Hmm.
So I could get them all the leads in the world, but if they don't have a system to turn them into buyers, they're gonna go broke, or they're gonna give up. And so I just have a really specific criteria. We tend to be super hands-on with our clients and very involved in the management of their ads and in strategizing. And so it's not for everyone. We that offer is really only for businesses that are doing seven figures and above. And like I said, they have a system in place to convert leads to buyers, but they need more traffic, more volume, like they really want to scale it up. So most people are coming to me when they're ready to scale. They're not brand newbies. I don't even work with brand newbies. If they're like, I've never run ads to this offer before, I'm like, then you're not ready for me. Go do that organically and prove your offer and your funnel works, and then come to me.
One of the things that I look at when we take on new clients, I look at their phone script,
Yep.
especially lawyers, because lawyers tend to get all this information. They ask all this information, your name, your address, your phone number. They'll ask all these questions before they even ask the prominent one. Are you, have you had an accident, or is this a personal injury, or medical malpractice case?
Mm,
Just ask that one question. Because if it's not, they wasted all that time collecting information they don't need.
yeah. Yep.
And I had a big client that was spending lots of money, also spending probably $30,000 a month just on ads, and their support team couldn't even answer the freaking phone.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And then they said, "Well, Rob, leads aren't working." I'm like, "I can see the tracking, I can see the calls, I can see people on your website. The ads are working.
Yeah.
It's internal, and you need to fix that."
Yeah.
And their team didn't want to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I mean, especially we track when we're running ads, we track all the way from the click through to the sale. Now, the only part I'm responsible for is the traffic, right? I'm not a funnel expert, I'm a traffic expert.
Yeah.
So again, they build the funnel, they bring it to me, I'm going to drive traffic to it. But we track the entire funnel. We track the part that I'm responsible for, and we track the part that they're responsible for. And that's one of the reasons that I love data, because it's not my opinion, it's not their opinion, it's just the truth, right?
Hmm.
It's not subjective. And so I do, weekly reports where I'm showing them the data. And if the data is saying that there's something wrong on the ads end, well, then 100% that's on us, and we're going to do our job to fix that. But if it's on the back end, then now they're held responsible for fixing that.
Hmm.
And you have some people that are like, I'm on it, we'll fix it, boom, right? Like they want it to work, they take responsibility and they do it. But you'll have other people that just continue to think, well, if you just make this change to the ads, it'll work, or you just make this change. And I'm like, listen, I could do the best ads in the whole wide world, but if your webinar is crap, nobody's going to buy from you. And
Yeah.
I don't have control over how good your webinar is. So I find that tracking the data of the entire funnel, even the part that I'm not in charge of, helps me to be able to communicate that to them in a way that's not my opinion,
Hmm.
and it's just the facts. And most of the time, again, when someone's investing at the level that they are with me, most of the time they're going to take care of it and fix it because they want it to work,
Yeah.
right? And the data makes it really easy, or it makes it really hard for them to point fingers
Yeah.
and be like, well, it's not
Although
me.
you'll
The data's
always have
showing
that
me.
one person that points out the anomaly. What about that day?
Yeah,
It spiked, and I'm like, that's an anomaly. Don't even look at
it's
that.
totally normal. Yeah.
Yeah,
We look at
and
trends. We look at trends week by week and month by month. We're not looking at day to day because ads fluctuate day to day. Facebook is a machine that's operated by human behavior, and human behavior on the platform changes every single day. So we're not looking at data on a day to day basis. We're looking at trends, week to week and month to month.
let's talk about human behavior like that. Because I find that when people are, especially with lawyers, when people are at their lowest point. They're hurt, they're frustrated. That's when they're searching. They're not searching when they, you know,
Yeah.
like that, that they're happiest. They just
Yeah. I mean, nobody needs a lawyer when they're doing great.
no. So it's you always have these people that are angry.
Yeah.
And so when they get on that phone, they're screaming. They want answers.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's always been, yes, I want to get traffic to your website. I want people to learn about you. But ideally, I just want them to call you because you're going to be able to hopefully pick up the phone and
Yeah.
guide them.
Yeah.
But a lot of people just say, "Hey, Rob, send them to my website."
Mm.
Then they'll say, well, "I don't want my phone number on the website. I don't want calls. I just want people to fill out forms." They're not going to do
That's
that.
crazy. Yeah. No, people, especially when it comes to needing an attorney, like you just want to get on the phone with someone, you want to talk to someone, you want to know that somebody's got your back, that you can figure this out. People are scared. I mean, most of the time when you need an attorney, something's happening in your life that feels really scary and uncertain and out of your control. And so I would think that the best thing you could do is have somebody who can pick up the phone that can be compassionate and understanding and say, "Hey, we can help you."
Mhm.
To not want to do that, to me, I'm like, then why are you even an attorney? You asked for that when you went into that industry.
Yeah. Now, how about AI? Do you use it? Do you not? And
Yeah.
and, and
So,
what I say about AI is more like the chats and the
yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, so we use Chat GPT a lot in for brainstorming, right? To me, it's kind of like a brainstorming buddy where I can sit and pitch and catch ideas with. So
Mhm.
we may use it to help us write ad copy or email copy, but really what I also use it for is just brainstorming ideas for hooks or angles for an ad, a headline, a subject line, things like that. But I find that the copy that Chat GPT writes just lacks character and personality. And so it's a really good starting point if you're just staring at the screen and you're like, I don't know what to write. It's a really great way to spark ideas.
Mhm.
But then we always take that and personalize it and kind of fine tune it and add, the
What
client's
I've been
voice
doing
into it.
lately is I've been training it to be sarcastic like me.
Yeah.
And so I'll scan in some texts, from my books, and I'll write this letter in the style of Rob Anspach, be very sarcastic and
Yeah.
silly and sometimes serious. And it'll spit out stuff, and I'll give it to my wife or I'll give it to my team members, and they're like, "Rob, sounds like you."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay, then
Yeah.
we'll use that."
Yeah,
But
I agree. I mean, when you can feed it copy and teach it to learn your tone of voice and your style of talking
Mhm,
and communicating, it's very effective in that way. I find that if I just give it a prompt and I don't give it a tone of voice to match, you just don't know what you're going to get. But the more specific you can be in teaching it, like who you want that person to sound like and the tone, it does a really good job.
yeah. So when you write ads for Facebook? Are you serious? Do you have some type of personality in there? Do you want it to match the people that you're selling for?
I think that it's important. It should have some level of personality, right? Like people don't tend to respond to copy that's really flat and just sounds like an ad, right?
Mhm,
You want to write something that resonates with the audience, but that also really sounds like you. So I always make sure that, if I'm sarcastic, I'm going to be sarcastic in my copy. If I'm serious, I'm going to be serious. If I'm funny, I'm going to be funny. But then I'm also thinking about what is the feeling that I want my prospects to have when they read this,
right.
right? And so I could be a super funny person, but if I'm trying to sell something that's serious and something that someone might be scared or concerned about, me being funny in that copy might not really be a good match for that. So it's
Mhm,
a combination of like having your own personality in there, sounding like a human being, but also making sure that that copy, elicits a feeling of trust
mhm.
and relevancy to your audience.
Ever since COVID, we all know the expression social media, the whole know, like, and trust. But
Hmm.
since COVID, I've always added a fourth element, which is, feel safe. So
Mm,
people need to know, like, trust, and feel safe with you.
yeah.
So those ads that you're putting out sound like they're making people feel safe.
Yeah, for sure. You absolutely want to do that. And sometimes you can do that with being funny, with humor. Sometimes that brings people's guard down and makes them feel safe, but other times it's not appropriate. So you just have to really know your audience well, and yeah, and do what you can to make them feel safe and that you're trustworthy.
So let's talk about the audience, because with I know with Google, you can throw in, kind of your list, because you've already cultivated that list, or a like list, a mirrored list. And so you're going to get mirrored like people, you know. Um, can you do that now with Facebook?
So that's what's called creating a lookalike audience.
Right.
And so you can take your email list, you can upload it to Facebook, and then Facebook will identify things that all of those people have in common. And then they'll go and create an audience for you that's like 1 million to 2 million people that have those same things in common.
So it's easier to market to them because they already have something in common with maybe other people that are on your list.
Yeah, and depending on the size of the audience you upload to Facebook is going to determine the strength of that lookalike audience. So if you upload a list of 2,000 people to Facebook, that's a pretty weak lookalike. It's not a lot of data points. But if you have an email list of 20,000 and you upload that to Facebook, then that lookalike is going to be a lot stronger. So the bigger the base audience is that you can give to Facebook to create that lookalike from, the stronger the lookalike will be and the better it will perform.
So let's we've covered a lot in Facebook, but let's talk about your podcast, because that's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And for this podcast, eHeroes, it's geared to entrepreneurs who want to kind of cultivate their superpowers by learning from others. But your podcast is not the typical let's talk about Facebook.
Yeah. So I used to have a podcast called Power Players in Business and Life, and it was all about marketing and business and Facebook ads and all of that. And I did that for a while until I didn't feel like doing it anymore, and I shut it down. But about, I don't know, a year ago ish, maybe 9 months ago, I just really felt this need from that I was feeling amongst my peers and other people of like, people are really struggling with hard things in life. And a lot of people, especially young people, are struggling silently. And because of social media, where everybody just posts their highlight reels, there's a lot of people that think that they're the only ones that are struggling,
Mhm.
that they're the only ones that are facing hard times because nobody else is really talking about it. And so I just started to feel this calling to create a space where people could be really raw and open about hard things that they've faced in their life and how they got through them. Then don't have to be a business owner to listen or a business owner to be interviewed. That isn't even. I broke all the marketing rules of like you have to pick a niche and you have to be this. And I'm like, this isn't about marketing. Like this is about human beings connecting with others and helping people to build resilience and grit and knowing that like yes, life is going to throw some hard things at you, but you're going to make it and you're going to be okay. And so it's called the resilience factor. And we share pretty incredible stories on there of people who've been through really hard things. And from what I hear from the people who listen to it, sometimes they're like, wow, if that person went through that, like, and they handled it in that way, that makes me believe I can do this.
Mhm.
And those are the best stories that I just got a DM from a woman the other day who had a really horrific event happen in her life. And she said, as soon as that happened, the first thing I thought of was this one podcast interview that you did. And I could hear him in my
Mhm.
head, what he said, and it really helped me. So that's what I'm doing now. I don't have a way to monetize it yet. I think that's coming in the future. God's
Well,
doing some really cool things, but
let's talk about monetization, because like I said, this is episode 289. I've never monetized eHeroes. For me, eHeroes is my gift back to entrepreneurs so that they can learn.
yeah,
It's also, I the two words that I live for are freedom and legacy.
yeah,
And so for legacy, the books that I produce, the podcasts that I create, that the content is that legacy that I'm sharing with future entrepreneurs. With freedom, it's I've created this business where I can go wherever I want, when I want, how I want,
Yep.
and I can work wherever I want.
Hmm.
My prior business before was a cleaning business that I had for 19 years. It was local.
Yep.
When I decided to go
Daily
on
grind.
vacation, the business suffered.
Yeah.
Here, because of technology, I can go anywhere and I'm still working.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your podcast is your legacy to those people who need you the most.
Yeah. Yeah, it really feels like something that is bigger. It's about legacy, it's about impact, it's about creating community, it's about connecting human to human. And so I don't know if I'll ever monetize it, but that's not the reason that I'm doing it. It really is just to help others know that they're not alone and that they can do hard things.
Yeah, my last book that I just released, The Unscripted, Unfiltered, Unwoo, and Unguru, it was just a culmination of interviews that I did with Steve Gamlin over this podcast. Steve was on the podcast the longest. He did 7 appearances in 5 years, and after the seventh one, I thought, you know what? This material is so good. Let's just share it out to the world.
Mm.
And yes, it's on Amazon, and the sales of that book on Amazon go to Steve's 501(c)(3) nonprofit, which helps people in his area.
Hmm.
But if someone calls me and said, Rob, I don't have money, I'm struggling, I will send them the book for free
Yeah.
because I believe that there's the material in there. You read it, you get to know who I am, what I can do, what Steve's done. I mean, we worked the trenches. We got kicked where, you know,
Yeah.
and we just want people to realize that there are good people out there. There are entrepreneurs out there who aren't going to sell you the shiny object, aren't going to be the snake oil salespeople, because we do care because we've been in these situations.
Yep.
And so when I looked at your podcast, I thought, wow, you're doing the same thing. You're crusading for other people.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I've always viewed myself, even in managing ads and even now with the podcast, is I've always viewed myself as a conduit, that I'm like a tool that people can, the skill set that I have allows people to fulfill their mission and their purpose in life and reach their audience. And I just feel honored to be able to be the conduit that allows people to be able to do that.
Yeah. So how do people find you? Where do they go?
Well, they can go to my website, wearepowerplay.com, or they can just search my name on Instagram. I'm there as well, and on Facebook.
And they'll find your podcast. They'll find everything about you. And
Yep. It's all on Instagram and Facebook and on my website. Yeah, they can definitely or they can search the resilience factor in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
so what's a phrase or a word that you want to give people? We have a few minutes left.
Well, I'll share my life motto that I kind of created this year that I think will stay with me forever is better than yesterday.
And I
Um,
was wearing that shirt yesterday.
better than yesterday. I think that especially as entrepreneurs, we often set these like really huge revenue goals or these really big goals or whatever, and everything that we're doing is grinding and trying to get there. And then if you miss the goal, then it's like, oh, I failed, or there's all kinds of feelings around it. And I just think that if every day I try to be better than I was yesterday, better at my health, better at parenting, better at business, that I'm gonna hit all of my goals eventually if I'm just aiming always to be better than yesterday. And so that's
Mhm.
kind of what I've created as, my life motto now and in all areas of my life. And I believe that that'll get me to where I want to go.
And for me, it was never about serving, thousands of people. Yes, social media can put us into the arena where we can, maybe have lots of followers. But for me, it's always about helping one person at a time.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
I
So,
agree.
hey, it was a pleasure. I want everybody to go visit Adrian at what
wearepowerplay.com.
wearepowerplay.com. I can remember that. And this is what makes her an e-hero. And please, support her, listen to her podcast, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Adios.